Cool.
We're live. I think we're live. Are
We
we
be
live?
live.
We're
We
We're
be
live.
live
live.
now.
We're pre-show bantering. Do
All
we have?
right.
Yeah.
Do we have any banter to banter about?
We got to pick our topics. But I was going to say, Brian? Do you know if there's anybody even logged in yet to watch us for the pre-show?
I'm watching it. I don't think it's fired all the things up yet. It's still in progress.
Okay.
The page is refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, confirmed live. We're broadcasting.
Sweet. We got anybody watching us?
Oh,
I got 5 eyeballs.
Cool. Hey, everybody.
Hello, world.
Hello, world. Welcome to
Was that your first code? Did it say "Hello World"? Go around the room. Anybody?
I haven't written any
everybody's
code
first
yet.
code is always hello world.
Burn it all down, right?
Yeah. So, welcome to pre-show for talking about the cybers with Europe. Welcome everybody. We've got a bunch of guests that are going to be jumping on over the next 45 minutes or so. So we want to leverage this time right now to talk about what you want us to talk about. So if you part of what we do with this show, it's a little different than some of the other BHIS and anti-siphon shows, is we use this show to talk about events and things that are going on in the community, tools that are being made, training, just to kind of share what's happening in Europe. Europe has a lot of different countries, a lot of different things going on. So we try to bring people together from different regions in Europe. And then, of course, we always have a few folks from BHIS and anti-siphon in here as well. And in between us talking about the cool stuff that's going on in Europe and around the world, we intermix it with some current cyber infosec topics. And we use that as a kind of informal talking points. So we'll kind of bounce back and forth between, hey, Steve, tell us about your new course or your new tool that you're building. And then Steve says something, and then we'll go into a topic. So those of you that are watching us right now, it would be great for you to type into the chat, what do you want us to talk about that's going on right now in infosec news?
Yeah, don't put all that pressure on me, please.
So yeah, go type away, and we'll take some requests and try to talk about them. So, Klaus, while we're waiting for some folks to share, did you have any ideas? You had shared a article from Copenhagen.
Yeah, well, that is a little bit of a weird thing, because last weekend there was some information about a leak from a big Danish company, IT supplier, I guess you would call them, called Net Company. But then, as the weekend progressed, it certainly turned out that it was some kind of an inside job kind of thing that was kind of weird. So, and nobody really knows what's going on right now. So, yeah.
Well, I think that's actually a really good topic point, insider threat. I mean, especially
it's also interesting because at first everybody thought it was like an external thing, and then some of our experts from the community talked about what they sort of could see from what was leaked, and then as everybody found out that it wasn't an external leak like we thought, or like an external adversary, then the situation changed quite a lot, and Netcompany refused to say anything because they were in the middle of trying to figure out what the hell was going on. So yeah, so right now we don't know that much, which is a little bit sad.
Klaus, you can't say whether or not it was ransomware or a data leak or some dude got fired and unplugged the server as they went out the door, right?
What I can say is that is what's public knowledge, and I don't know anything else than that. I know it was a guy. He wasn't employed by a net company, but with one of their partners. So he had access to things that was going on there.
That's always another avenue of attack, right?
Yeah,
Seems
yeah,
also it's similar to a supply chain attack because you're
yeah.
using
True.
the suppliers of services or whatever for the parent company.
True. Because first there were like information about it on a leak site from a group no one had heard from, had heard of before, and then and with that there was some files that were shared, but they were all encrypted. So the guy sort of released passwords for them ongoing, and unfortunately there was a lot of links in Danish.
Yeah,
and I haven't been able to find anything in English that made sense. I sent an auto-translated article to John.
Yeah, we've been having that trouble working on our class, which we'll talk about later, translating foreign languages into the cyber tools and things that we use.
So as I said, in that sense, is that the first people thought it was something, then they talked about it as if it was that, as if it was that, and then everybody found out it was something else, and then nobody really exactly knows what is the data that was leaked, were it test data as Netcompany says, or was it critical as somebody else thinks? We don't really know.
Sure. Does GDPR play any role in that? I know I saw some regulations where a ransomware group had deployed ransomware and then they didn't get paid, so they then went against the regulations and said, hey, they didn't pay us in time, to get them in trouble. Anything like that happen over there, or with those kinds of companies?
Indirectly, because our national data authorities were wondering why they didn't get a leak notice, so they have asked a series of questions to Netcompany, and that's really all we know.
Got it.
So obviously they were wondering, well, is there anything PII, and if there is, why didn't you tell us?
Sure.
So I guess a good topic that we can talk about is insider threat. I was going to kind of say we could even tie that into, how does infosec cybersecurity play into, espionage in this day and age? I think in Europe, we're seeing a lot of crazy things happen every day where information is getting leaked. There's an active war going on over here. I don't know. Those of you that have joined us or just joining us, we are in show banter mode. So we're taking requests for current InfoSec topics to talk about when all of our guests are on. So if you have any things that you would like us to talk about, please send it into the chat.
I got a quick one that kind of rolls off of the last topic, is that, like, what are the numbers of agencies and corporations that have had data leaks or hacks, ransomware, stuff like that? Has there been any kind of uptick since the escalation of force over there, or has it been the same? Who are the threat actors now? I've seen some ransomware groups that got busted that were in the Ukraine specifically, targeting U.S. companies and things like that. So where do we lie there in the European market?
Okay. That sounds like a good topic. For sure. Threat actors. So an increase of actors.
Klaus, you got any information on that?
No, I don't know that much about CGI and stuff like that, unfortunately.
It's a good question if anybody in the audience has insight on that. Be good. What is the hot topic in Europe these days, I wonder? Cyber related. Is everything moving to the cloud over there as well? Curious, because that's been our kind of like focus that we've had at BHIS, is working on some of those cloud aspects around Microsoft. They don't like us very well because they have emailed my boss that the things that we're finding, even though they're like designed to be that way, are impactful in the fact that you can do things unauthenticated or as a basic user that you shouldn't be able to do. So it's been hard to push change, such as the device code authentication flow, which we've been battling for years now. And because of all our blogs, our phishing tools, and stuff like that, Microsoft has finally implemented a way for administrators to disable that authentication flow. Not really protect it, but just disable it. So, I mean, it'll still be there for, I'm sure, a large number of organizations. But just curious, like, how does that, like, cloud security apply to the European side? Is it as prevalent? Because I know we have, like, Azure GovCloud, we have Azure China, we have Azure US, but I'm not so sure about the European market.
Well, I think it varies a bit where in Europe you are. Denmark has always been Microsoft country, and so has all of Scandinavia. So obviously everybody are in Azure. And so I guess we're seeing the same problems you are. Of course, why wouldn't we?
Another topic I was thinking of, folks, would be information sharing between countries in Europe, right? You know, with every country having its own, you know, government and its own agencies for cyber in sorts, you know, does that slow down? Does it make it complicated? I was just reading about, you know, how Belgium, France, and Poland have joined up and Germany to create like a physical corridor for, you know, within the Schengen, but military level, right? So that they can, in case the war spreads to other countries, they have a nice, smooth way to get things between those countries. It made me think about how does information sharing work in Europe with so many different countries and governments, right?
Well, we do have the Five Eyes, quote unquote, you know, the intelligence alliance. I think it's like Australia, Canada, the UK, and us, and another one or two.
New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand. So there are, you know, methods to do that. Now, I don't, you know, whether or not other non-alliance countries, you know, maybe part of NATO or whatever, have access to those resources. I don't know. I'd assume they'd be filtered down by the time they got to those other countries. So not quite sure.
Is there
I know, like here in the U.S., you could have, if the FBI shows up at your corporation, you know, that could be like a notice that you didn't even know you were hacked. So I'm sure that could happen over there as well with other agencies.
Yeah, absolutely. And or even if, you know, is there a Five Eyes, a version of Five Eyes in Europe between?
Right. Yeah.
Well, with that, European countries are part of the. I don't know, I don't know exactly who the Five Eyes are, but you know there are groups where, you know, other European. I think France and Germany are probably part. If not in the Five Eyes,
Interpol.
Close,
yeah.
right?
They're not technically part of Five Eyes. So Five Eyes is US, UK, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. So that's kind of why I think what Steve was saying is maybe, you know, being NATO countries, maybe Five Eyes, there's parts of that information that get trickled down to NATO, but maybe not all of it, right? Who knows? So this is exactly what I meant by that topic, right? Like, are there other agencies or are there other organizations in Europe? You know, how does that work? Because I think this is going to be really, really important over the next few years to make sure that we have some kind of system set up in place. If you know, I'm sure there's one through Interpol already. Interpol, that could be an interesting topic too.
It certainly is, because they were part of that ransomware sting operation in the Ukraine, busting one of the major ransomware groups. So they are definitely over there, and kind of like in the capacity of, you know, the FBI is over here. So I know they're actively working these cases. I don't know to what extent and capacity they have authority in those countries.
Very good. Welcome.
Hey, welcome to the show.
Pression. Make sure I say that correctly. Oh,
you must have said it wrong.
Oh man, kicked him out.
Yeah, you provoked him, John.
Oh man. Does anybody, while we're waiting for him to join, know how to pronounce that name? Prashant?
Yeah, I won't do the disservice of attempting to pronounce.
Okay.
Not really.
Somebody's got to ask.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
So I
But
think I want to talk about the challenges of operations in Europe against some of those countries that are aggressors, right? In the level of who has authority to do what. Because if we can defend all day long, right, and just basically blocks and things in a reactive nature, but what are we doing on the offensive side of the house against those actors? Are we um, attacking Chinese, units or groups or anything like that to disrupt their services that are, grouped together in like large groups like a red team and attacking our infrastructure, stealing our IP and stuff like that? Are we doing anything along those lines? I know, I'm sure we are, but what authority do those countries like Interpol? I'm sure they're not hacking other countries. I don't know, but it's something that I'd be interested in. Who has authority to do what over there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because to me, I would think that would be a more proactive means than just sitting and waiting to see your computer show up as ransom.
Yeah. So we've got another guest on here. Welcome. Um, uh, uh, I'm going to try to pronounce your name, or you could just tell us your name. I don't want to butcher it. So, can you tell us who you are?
Hi, I'm Presian. You may call me Presley or Press uh,
crazy.
for short.
What's up,
Yeah,
Pressy?
Press.
Yeah.
Prashant.
Uh,
Okay.
and you may see that I'm joined from the dental office.
Are you getting teeth pulled or what? Is that what it's like to join us?
No, my father-in-law is a dentist, and we are at their house right now. And
Oh, wow. All
my
right.
wife, my wife banished me from the house. So we have a little daughter. So yeah,
Oh, very good.
this is the reason.
Very nice. Cool. So, Prashant, where are you joining us from? What country?
Bulgaria. Uh,
Very good. What?
I'm
Bulgaria. Okay.
yeah, I'm one of the volunteers behind beside Sofia
Very
for the
good.
past
Oh,
couple of
very
years.
cool.
Yeah, and we will have the conference running in 2 weeks, I think. Yeah, 2 weeks.
Very cool.
What's
And are
the expected like amount of people that might be there?
This is a hard one. The past 2 years we had open event. We had Eventbrite registration, but just to know the to count the capacity of the venue.
Mm-hmm.
But we were expecting like 300 people
Mm-hmm.
because like 400 were registered, and we actually got a very low attendance rate, like
Yeah.
less than 100. So this year we are changing gears and having paid tickets with hopes that not all, but most of the people will get and pay the fee will actually show up, because for the past years we had many let's say effort, time, and some funds trashed in the bin because nobody showed. But we are
Got it.
still very young and not that mature
Yeah.
when it comes to such a community.
I'm sure it'll pick up for you. And what is there a specific topic group you're looking for, like offense, defense, or just
Mm,
anybody and you'll review anything, or how's that go? And how do people apply to actually talk there?
no, we are open to all kinds and mostly students. We are not focused on a particular field like offense or defense. And yeah, having our main goal is to lay the foundation for the cybersecurity community in Bulgaria, because until now we had almost and only events based on vendors and services, and they were very RSA marketing focused. So yes.
You're good. Okay, great. We've got a few more guests. Let's hey everybody. So
Who we got?
Dominicus. I'm sorry, Dominic. I said it right. Welcome. Tell us about
Hello
yourself.
there.
Where you're coming from?
Oh yeah, I'm from Lithuania.
Lithuania.
So yeah, and I'm from a B-sides Vilnius gang, and I think we're also missing one of my teammates, Kais, who's also going to be joining from my crew. And
Great.
yeah, how much do you want to know?
What's the cyber situation like there in Lithuania? Is it taken seriously? Is there a lot of funding for it? Jobs and things like that nature?
Well, we were quite surprised how positively besides Vilnius, how much attention it got, because it's we're doing it for the first time, and a lot of companies actually wanted to support us, and that was a great feeling, because you just felt that they wanted to, as well as we do, want to elevate the whole cybersecurity community and grow talent and just support this community event. But I feel there are a lot of great and cool people around us. It's just I think the community is a little bit maybe segmented in some way. So we are trying to kind of put people together from different groups of cyber, and just that they could meet, and but job wise, I mean, it's we're lacking as hell professionals. It's, I guess,
Bro.
as every other country,
Mhm.
we are hiring a lot from other countries as well, because it's we have a limited pool of professionals here, so it's it's ever growing profession.
Sure.
Great. Well, we've got a few more guests that have joined us. Please introduce yourself. We have Antonio. Hello.
Yeah,
Welcome.
Antonio, I am Italian, but I live in Dublin, in Ireland. And I always try to bring the community together here in Dublin. I organize, besides Dublin, as you can see from the t-shirt, I lead the OWASP chapter here in Dublin as well. So I think bringing the community together is very important. And here in Dublin, there is a great scene, a lot of companies around. So,
Well, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. And Caius, am I saying that correct?
That is absolutely correct. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Sorry, late to the party. I am together with Dominikas. We're trying to revive the security community in Vilnius, Lithuania, by organizing B-Sides Vilnius. And also, I'm a security engineer at Full Health currently. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet
Thanks for
you.
joining. So yeah, we're still in our pre-show, kind of informal, making sure our audio video works. Guests are trickling in. I think we almost have everybody. So I'd say we just kind of jump in and talk about some topics, and then in between different topics, we can talk about your events or your tools or your training that you're working on, and tell us more. So one of the topics I think was put in the chat, which was interesting, I think. So we just had some, and I think we've talked about this topic on almost all of our Europe shows that we've done so far. But sea cables, there were just sea cables cut in the Red Sea. Is anybody, is that impacting anything that anybody is aware of in Europe, those cables? Does anybody know anything about that? It happened today, I believe, right?
Well, new information to me.
I know they have been talking about it, and there are reports about them doing it, but not whether or not they were capable of cutting those lines in the Red Sea or not. So to hear that they did or tried isn't entirely surprising.
I wonder if that relates to the Facebook outage that has happened just an hour ago. Yeah.
Facebook runs through Yemen or the Red Sea. I don't know. Maybe.
Probably not. But you never know.
Wow. And I mean, physical attacks in general. I mean, this is kind of the topic that I wanted to open up. I mean, satellite attacks. We're reading about potential satellite attacks that Russia could be coming up with. We've got sea cable attacks we just had in the Baltic Sea recently that, cables were cut. I'm not sure if they still have figured out how that happened. So where are we at in Europe right now, in terms of the vulnerability? Is this something that any of you folks are worried about or that you've dealt with directly or indirectly? Let's talk about infrastructure, cables, satellites, things like that we rely on very much for our day-to-day.
Well, what was that Russia recently deployed, I think, to space? There was something about nukes in space and being able to take out satellites and whatnot.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was referring to. I believe that they just launched something last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. And the information that the U.S. government shared was
that... Is this like a 007 movie or Austin Powers? Are we going to find, bald dude in space controlling some big contraption that's going to nuke us all at the end? I don't know. Sounds crazy, but they're doing it. How would that impact us if all of our satellite communications just went gone? GPS, obviously, phones in capacities, and
air flights would be inoperable, right?
True.
Actually, that's something that I feel our folks from Lithuania maybe have some opinions on as well, right? I'm in Poland right now, and we're seeing a lot of interference in GPS. We're thinking out of Kaliningrad. I think that's very close to where you folks are at, or what are you hearing about, or what are you reading about, or tell us your thoughts on this. Dominique, Caius. Right?
Yeah. Well, Kaliningrad is just, when you're a neighbor of Russia, you just have to be on alert all the time. Me personally, I haven't encountered anything that would relate to GPS or that kind of stuff, but it's just that, constant staying on alert and just knowing that, something might happen, the danger always there. So you have to be extra careful on the time, I guess, and have your plans prepared in case of anything happens, in case there's some military drill or something like that. Yeah.
Do you know if Lithuania, the government of Lithuania, has any plans or has any kind of?
Yeah, they do, because we don't have a choice, right? We have to have a plan. We work closely with NATO on preparing those plans, and we have drills ourselves, just making sure we know what to do in case something, in case the situation escalates, right, in a way that we don't want. So I'm pretty sure the government is working closely with our European and cross-Atlantic allies to prepare on that. Yeah.
And obviously, I believe you border Russia on the Kaliningrad side there. So there is that physical, presence there at all times, that threat that you're describing. What about disinformation? Is there anything like that going on in Lithuania?
Yeah, so disinformation and propaganda in general is a huge topic in Lithuania. We constantly see that being active and used, and sort of like someone is trying to see, how people will react to certain kind of information, what kind of weakness will they have. Is it possible to make people, to become angry and fighting with each other just by posting some fake information? So that is a huge topic for us. and there is a constant. There's constantly on the news, and people are supposed to be very careful when it comes to stuff like fake articles, but not only that, phishing attacks, smishing, that's SMS phishing as well. And then also not to mention the, critical infrastructure security and everything we have publicly open. That's also very important to defend. But yeah, in general, that's a very huge topic for us. Yeah.
And I think all of Europe, really, right? I mean, there was just the news out of Germany the past few days where there was a classified conversation that was done on an unencrypted communication channel for some reason, and that slipped out. So, I mean, disinformation, right? Like, are we really ready for this? Do we know how big of a scale this is going to be in Europe? What do we do about disinformation? How do we, combat this this vector, I should say, right?
Well, I think most countries are doing that via social media monitoring and whatever privacy laws they have around that. Because we've seen groups get taken down that have been posting misinformation. We've seen a lot of that in the Israeli space as well, both against and for. So, I mean, it is definitely a tactic that is used, and I think effectively in some cases to defend against it. I mean, it's not like they're attacking your infrastructure. They're just publicly posting information. And with artificial intelligence and AI videos and voice being generated now, it's even more prevalent. So, and harder to detect. So it's just something we have to keep on our toes. And hopefully we can keep up with the technology that's being used against us as well.
But I actually don't think that the social media platforms are doing a good job in filtering these things. I've seen actually a lot of times, for example, Lithuanian actors or these local superstars having a lot of kind of like fake articles about it, about them doing something bad and or cheating or just a lot of funky stuff, and that goes to propaganda in a sense that what Russia is trying to do a lot is just to cause like chaos in countries, just to kind of like rattle the people, and actually like sometimes it just leads to whenever I'm just curious, I sometimes check the sources, and more than often these are coming from Russian IPs and the host services. So I think that social media platforms should do better. There's a lot of even there was some time ago there was a general hacked in Lithuania. His social media account, Facebook account, was hacked, and just very nasty images were posted on his social media account, and that immediately prompted a lot of people saw it, but it took like, I don't know, an hour to kind of temporarily ban his account. But there was a lot of questions towards Meta, why they didn't do anything, why this happened in the first place, and it was a SIM swapping attack even, I think. So that was just an attack to ruin the image of a person, and also ban his account permanently. So I just think that the social media platform should do better, because as I think all of you know, there's a lot of bots and a lot of misinformation just in Twitter, like X, Facebook. Just I feel it's too
Yeah,
much.
don't try to mention any kind of cryptocurrency, or the bots will start sicking on you real quick.
Yeah, exactly.
Does GDPR impact the ability for European nations to monitor social media at all? I mean, I know that the US is doing a ton of monitoring of social media, but is that different in Europe because of some of the laws? Do we know?
Might be around the type of content someone is allowed to post. versus like what hackers can do. I think it would be more the former.
Steve, you're doing some interesting stuff right now connected to some of this. We're talking about disinformation, espionage, from nation state level type stuff. I think more of the nation state level stuff really than disinformation, but I'm sure that plays into the early stages of some of these vectors and stuff that they're going through. But what are you doing right now in terms of, did you say you have a class that you're working on or that you're presenting sometime in the future?
Yeah, so kind of like in a little bit of cooperation with PHIS and the anti-siphon platform. It's going to be kind of separate. Caitlin and I are working on it's kind of crazy because nobody really does this. So you go to like a red team course or a pen test course, and you learn how to hack into a company that you're authorized to do that with. And there's only certain things you can do. You're restricted to how disruptive you can be. So you can't, I don't know, run ransomware on the organization like a real attacker would. You couldn't, lock out all of the firewalls or the routers and things like that on your way out, or implant persistence through like VPN or something like that. So what we decided to do is come up with a course that kind of remove those restrictions, and kind of keeping in the spirit of the current cyber trends to do that against, current threat actors. So our first course, we decided to do offensive operations against foreign adversaries, or UWAFA, as we call it. So our first target is actually Russia. So what we've done is enumerated and come up with some ideas of how to do that and not actually do that, right, in the class. So what we're doing is we're taking an actual company that's over there, a missile defense organization, and we're replicating the network and putting it into our own network that students won't be able to take with them and things like that. It's all going to be proprietary. We have all the operating systems, and Caitlin's done a lot of research around that. I'm sure she can talk to. But like the most of the class is going to be in Russian and some other foreign languages, because we're going to do things like target third-party services like we talked about earlier, building contractors and things like that to pivot in. And they're really going to get a sense of how like an APT group against those, or like, let's say what do they call it? The Ukrainian cyber army or IT army or something like that. Yeah, IT army. What is their view on an attack that has no limitations? So we're doing that in the class. And Caitlin, if you want to talk about like some of the technologies that we're using and up against.
Yeah, just put me right on the spot there, Steve.
Drop in.
But yeah, so one of the cool things about the fact that we've chosen Russia to start out with is they have kind of a like closed ecosystem of software that is like authorized for use for things like government work or defense work. And so we've been doing a lot of research into like the operating systems or like their equivalents of things like Active Directory. And it's been really neat. There's lots of similarities, lots of differences, lots of copying, pasting into translation apps to try and figure out what the heck is going on. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And for me personally, I think one of the cool things about what we're trying to do with our course is, like Steve was saying, right, with testing, you always have all these restrictions in place, and a test can only get so realistic. And I think it'll be fun for students to really get into this mindset of like, okay, but what is a real attacker going to do? Let's pulling away from that kind of like contrived approach that you have to have, obviously, for safety purposes and security purposes. And it's going to be a really fun time.
Yeah, so our first iteration of this is actually going to be a free webinar, or not webinar, but workshop at Hack SpaceCon. It's going to be, I think, what, 180 minutes, and it'll still be a real trimmed down version of the actual class and a lot of the theory behind it. And they'll actually have some labs and challenges and things like that to go through. But then the first full day class will be at Hack Miami in May. And then kind of off of those two, I guess we're going to gauge the interest in the community because, to be honest, how many of your CEOs out there, depending on where you're at in the world and what your challenges are facing, what the laws are going to send your employees and pay money to go have them, learn how to hack something that they may never get to do, but the techniques and stuff like that that they would learn in the course would help prepare them for challenges that they actually see in the real world as well.
Well, that's fascinating. That sounds like a really interesting course.
We hope so, yeah. Anybody have questions around that or anything like that? Anybody out there actually hacking? No, don't say that.
Anonymous suggestions, maybe.
Yeah, anonymous suggestions.
Well, one thing that a question that it brings up to mind for me, and especially with our guests on here, dealing with multiple languages in Europe and threat actors that are doing things, threat hunting, things like that. And I mean, how big of an issue is this for you folks that are doing this type of work or doing something similar to that, where language comes into play, where it's like another whole level of obfuscation to a certain degree or something, right? Any of our guests have any comments on that, or is everything in English and that we're seeing?
No, certainly not. And I think the big hurdle there is with foreign languages, our tools don't do translation automatically. So we are reliant on other tools to help aid the current tools we have that are written in English and compilation of those in certain systems. So the course we're actually doing some of the compiling of the tools and in those systems on those OSs that will prove those other challenges, and how to do that. And actually, some of our coworkers at BHIS are helping us out write some software, some tooling around this course to actually do some of that translation for us in the offensive aspect of the course. So actually, enumerating stuff in foreign languages and attacking and password spraying and things like that.
Yeah. I think of endpoint protection and things like that, for example, right? I was at HackCon a few weeks ago in Norway, and I was talking with a gentleman he was a very talented developer, and he was essentially rewriting programs that we use in security from scratch, and they're not detectable. Is that something that keeps everybody up at night on here? How often are we seeing tools that are basically almost a clone of another tool, but there's no way to recognize it and there's no identifiable markers because it was just rewritten? Anybody heard of anything like this?
Well, I can say a couple of words, but I don't really see that much of foreign language tools used, or just in general foreign language used besides English. And just to put a note, I actually live in Lithuania, but I work for a Danish company in Denmark. So I still have a Scandinavian overview, which is a little bit skewed if you think I see a lot of Lithuanian attacks on Lithuania. So, but in Scandinavia, I definitely can't see that much of. It's mainly English, and even all the attacks and all the IOCs and everything is it's mainly English. So, but maybe Klaus knows a little bit more about it. He's more. He's been here in Denmark much more than I did, so maybe just changed. I don't know.
Well, I think the only thing I can say, so when I started in security 20 years ago, we always kept saying that, well, Danish is a minority language. Nobody's ever going to do any convincing scams and stuff like that. But then they started happening, and then it started being Danish people's calling up old ladies to get their money, which is which was a little bit of a shock to me when that happened. But of course, it's a natural development. But it took some time, right? Because in the first many years, it was horrible Danish, which you really had to be really stupid to fall for. And of course, that with AI, that had changed.
I actually remember like a year ago, there was in Denmark a phone scam, which or phishing, and it was done. A lot of numbers were called up. I think it started with a auto-generated police message, and it was done all in English, I think, if I recall well. And it is English-speaking country, but it wasn't done in Danish. So the choices what scammers chose was to use English, not even Danish. So
I think it depends on who your target group is. If you're targeting the elderly, which is for many reasons an easy target, then you would need to do it in Danish.
But a lot of my friends, Danish friends, got this. I mean, they're Danes, and they got English phishing scam. Yeah.
Klaus, that reminds me, you had mentioned a few shows ago that, artificial intelligence is maybe something that's increasing the amount of foreign language phishing and, those types of attacks, because it's a lot easier with AI to actually generate text in another language.
Yeah, convincing texts, right? Of course.
Yeah. Or voice even, right?
Yeah, sure, of course. But for now, I've only heard of that. The phishing mail become more convincing with the introduction of AI. But
I mean, yeah. With artificial intelligence now and the amount of video and audio content, do we have to authenticate, video and news and audio now?
Yeah,
is that where we're going to?
Well, one thing for sure, and that is that is going to be horrible with all because it will be so easy to create any kind of fake stuff. So misinformation will quadruple or whatever. It will explode, of course. Unfortunately.
So is anybody else think, is that where we're at now, where we need to authenticate audio and news?
Not now, but soon-ish.
Soon? Like how soon?
I don't know.
1 year?
Probably. Well, if you look at it now, how much had happened in AI in the last year? That's insane, right? So where are we next year?
Actually, if I may jump into the conversation, if you can buy the most recent Economic Forum risk report, they outlined the risks for the next 2 years and 10 years, short term and long term. And in short term, number one risk worldwide will be disinformation and misinformation. So yeah, we have to authenticate everything.
Trust no one, authenticate everything.
Yeah. How do we authenticate? I mean, video and audio, that's massive amounts of data, right? I started off in my career in the video industry, and we were moving huge amounts of data. We had to mail hard drives sometimes because, when we were filming in the early HD days, you couldn't send that information. There was nothing available to send it, right? So, yeah, I mean, how do you authenticate such large amounts of data? Do we have to use blockchain to do that? Like, how's that going to work? Any ideas?
Yeah, actually, I think there is a big tech effort right now. They're pushing something like copyright for AI, which will be embedded in all images and videos and so on, and it will be blockchain delivered. So yeah, it's coming. Don't get my word granted, but this is something I came by in recent months.
So yeah, those of you that are, and those of you out there listening to us that are, doing crypto or hashing, and you have your rigs and stuff, I think there's going to be a future for this work. We're going to need a lot of computing power to authenticate video calls, audio phone calls, and things like that. It's going to get pretty wild. So yeah, those of you that are joining, welcome. This is talking about cybers with Europe. We've got a bunch of guests from around Europe and the U.S. as well. My name's John. I'm based out of Poland, originally from the U.S. I think it would be a good time now to just kind of go around. Let's introduce yourselves for all of the people that are, that have jumped on later, or just joining us now. Let's talk about who you are. Where do you come from? What do you do as a profession? Not just what events are you putting together, or tools or courses that you're working on, but where do you come from? And what do you do in this infosec industry? It would be great for everybody to hear who you are and what you're about. So Klaus and I started this show. I don't know when that was, Klaus, a year ago, 9 months ago or so.
Yeah. At B-Sides, UMA, right?
Yeah, that's right. That was June, right? B-Sides UMA. So, Klaus, why don't you get started? Tell us who you are and
yeah, sure. Well, I'm B-Sides Copenhagen organizer and Copenhagen, Denmark, and I'm currently a freelancer working with whatever I find interesting. I've been talking about living with ADHD and infosec for the last year, so obviously that's a thing too. I was a Wild West Hacking Fest last year, and we'll do it again. And I would say a general thing is that I talk about a lot of different things. I like to do a lot of different things because I get bored super easy. Hello ADHD, but that's how it is. So
have you done any planning for B-Sides Copenhagen this year yet?
Not yet, other than setting a date, which I can't remember, but it's sometime in November. Yeah. So, but I will be going to B-Sides Transylvania and B-Sides Dublin so far. So I'll be around. I'm a big community guy, both here in Denmark and internationally.
Cool. Well, thanks for helping us put this show together, Klaus. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for inviting me.
So you had mentioned, Klaus, B-Sides Dublin. I believe that's coming up soon. Antonio, May? Okay.
Yeah.
18th of May. Yeah.
You want to introduce yourself? Tell us about who you are, and maybe go in a little more in detail than the last time when folks were just kind of joining and stuff, since we should have a lot more people on now.
Yeah, Antonio, I work in the offensive security space. I come from a forensics background, long years in forensics, digital investigations. And then I moved to Ireland, and I understood that we are lucky to work into cybersecurity, and we need to give back to the community. So I started to organize, besides Dublin, and to lead the OWASP chapter here in Dublin. Always around for the community, always meeting Klaus everywhere.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah.
And Antonio, how did you end up in Dublin? You said you were originally from
Italy, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for work. There was an opportunity in Dublin, so I just moved here in Ireland.
How do you like Dublin?
Yeah, not bad. You can have a good community, good security community. Of course, Italian food is a totally different stuff, but still, weather is different. But
Do you miss the weather and the Italian food?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
That's
And the food,
what
I guess.
the food, yeah. What part of Italy were you from, Antonio?
From the south.
Nice. Well, thank you for joining us today, Antonio. It's a pleasure to
Thank
have
you
you
for
on.
having me.
Very good, very good. So yeah, let's keep going around. Dominicus, tell us about yourself, where you're from. It sounds like you're living in one place from another place, but organizing events in another place as well. So
Yes, exactly. So I've been living in Denmark for 14 years, and that's where I met Klaus, and that's where we had a lot of. Um, I was helping to organize B-sides as well, Copenhagen, out there. Not doing much, but just um, helping with the live videos, and also I was helping to record OVAS Copenhagen, because actually I was doing film production or video production for also more than 10 years. So I switched to cyber not that long time ago, and Klaus was actually one of the guys who helped me to achieve that career change. Um, in return, I did a lot of good videos for him and taught him how to light his studio. He's not doing that right now, is he?
Yeah.
So yeah, but well, he's not at home, so that's fine. But yeah, it's we and I work in at TrueSec, so that's in Denmark. But I'm actually relocated myself to Lithuania, kind of less than a year ago. So I'm quite new here in Lithuania because I spent a lot of my years in Denmark. But the knowledge I got in Denmark, I really felt how awesome the events were, the B-sides Copenhagen and such. So one of my dream was to come back to Lithuania and actually make B-sides Vilnius, and because there was no such event, and I talked with a lot of guys. We one of that is Caius. We gathered other awesome people. So now we're six, and we all got to the same goal to make Lithuanian community great again, and kind of to elevate it and create Vilnius B-sides for the first time. And it's happening quite just before Dublin event, I guess, because it's on May 16th. So you can go to Lithuania first, then have all the nice talks, have an awesome after party, and then just sleep over and go to Dublin, and yeah, do a round tour. So yeah.
Good idea.
very cool. And this is the first year that you're doing it?
Yes.
Is that, did I get that?
Yes, the
That's
first
exciting.
year, not the last year. A lot of excitement, a lot of support from a whole community, and I think we are overwhelmed by well, we still haven't sold any tickets. We're not selling them yet, but we hope it's gonna be the waiting list is gonna be long, and so so we are trying to kind of see if if we just imagining that the hype is big or not. We need we need to see, but we believe it's like that.
When do tickets go on sale?
Actually, Kaius can take over, because I don't want to say everything about this size, because I can talk and talk, but then there won't be anything left for Kaius to say, and he's also wanted to pitch a few words, so he can talk about it.
Okay, so this can be as part of my as part of my intro. So the tickets, we don't have the exact date yet, because we're still looking for people. The call for papers is open, right? So we're expecting people to send some cool stuff to us, so the committee can select the best papers, and then we can actually start putting the agenda in, so that, and then we can release the ticket sales that people expect. Why are they buying tickets? Why should they buy tickets to this event? Although the tickets are going to be like really cheap, so even the students can afford it, etc. So yeah, looking forward to it. But as for my intro, so my name is Kaius. I'm based in Vilnius, Lithuania. I've been living here for almost all my life. And I welcome Dominikas. It's always nice when people come back to your own country, especially people that been living abroad, and they come back. They say, I wanna stay here. I wanna live here in my country." So that's always great. So yeah, he just invited me over for a couple of beers, and we met, and then we kind of started this initiative with the B sides that was already in the air, actually, for quite some time, in some other minds, but we kind of just got this going. Yeah, so a bit about me. So I'm a senior security engineer at Flow, which is world's most popular female health app. And what I do, well, as it's usual in a smaller company, the security guys just have to roll up their sleeves, and do quite a few things, cover a wide range of activities. But I'm mainly involved in technical security, so stuff like vulnerability management, scanning, doing pen tests, as well as kind of explaining the risks to the business, because I think that's really important, so that the technical POCs, for example, that we receive or we find, are translated to the business properly. I think that's really important. Yeah, I work a bit of on security tooling, automation, pushing the security agenda forward, essentially, and yeah, doing some security testing when I have some spare time. Yeah, so I think that was the B sides. I think it relates to that missing piece in here in local security community, because we want to have more security events, that's for sure. We want to have more the community that's more lively, but we're missing the right format, right? And I think the B sides comes in as a perfect format for that, because the event is non-commercial. It sets some standards for quality, I think, and it's also well-known format, which gives some credibility and some credit, trust credit for us to make that event happen. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Very cool. And Caius, tell us a little bit about Vilnius, where the event is
Sure.
going to be located. What can people expect if they come to the event in Vilnius?
Sure. Yeah. So Vilnius is, if you know where Poland is, so you have to go even more up, up north, and you will find what is called the three Baltic countries: Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. So yeah, so that's where Vilnius is. It's actually quite easy to get a flight to Vilnius from London, for example. It's not the best communication, but I think it's getting better. Yeah, it's very cool, chill city. We only have 500,000 of the population is just over 500,000. The weather is nice during summer. No, I'm hoping that this May is going to be pretty nice in terms of weather. And yeah, and if you didn't know, Lithuania has been a new player in the security scene. Actually, we recently had a couple of unicorns, such as Nord Security and Vinted. So that's it's kind of really growing. The community is growing, and I think it's just Vilnius is a city, at least to me, that I've been living here for like 20 years or so, and it's like constantly growing and improving. You can see the progress, literally. So if you haven't been to this part of Europe, yeah, I would strongly recommend and come over, yeah, to see some new things.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I visited Vilnius maybe a year and a half ago, and very walkable, easy to, lots of good restaurants, just a really nice place. So that's really
It
cool to
is.
hear that this event.
It's having an old town. It's having a really nice old town, and I would say that coming back from Denmark to Lithuania, I feel it's very international city. I didn't. It's a nice nice kind of touch. I did really think that a lot of people would not. We would not have that many internationals as we do now, and that is, I think, a really nice surprise. Well, I don't know if it's a surprise. It was a surprise for me, but I just feel it's very welcoming foreigners and everyone who actually wants to visit Vilnius. I feel that Lithuanians are definitely not, are really welcoming, yeah, in general.
Great.
So everyone who wants to, join besides Vilnius, everyone is welcome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, next year we will come to visit you. Next edition we will be there.
Yeah,
Sure.
fantastic.
Very nice. Okay, let's Prescian, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit, about yourself.
I'm Presian from Sofia, Bulgaria. My technical background started 10 years ago, maybe more, in the networking field, network engineer, and day and night shifting in the internet service provider, NOC, the network operation center, and so on. So I got bored there and transferred to the cybersecurity field by accident. And I started working with a company which were very vendor based. We worked with ESET, Sophos, and so on. But during the pandemic, actually, besides Copenhagen, sparked the interest in me for more in cybersecurity. Actually, it was all conferences which went virtual, like DEF CON and free, so they were very accessible to me. And I were all over the place. I mean, really all over the place. I do not still do not specialize in any field. I'm part-time now, security operations and center analyst, forensics guy, penetration tester, and so on. Actually, I'm all over the place when it comes to information security. So regarding the events we organize, it started 2 years ago because as I shared in the beginning, almost all conferences in Bulgaria were not almost all the conferences in Bulgaria were very commercial and all the buzzwords and sales pitches and so on. And with the technical guys in our company, we were wondering what is missing, what is the secret ingredient we are missing here. It was the community, so we started the B-Sides idea, contacted, shout out to the one of the kindest persons I met. This is Jack Daniel, the B-Sides father. So this is pretty much all regarding all around B-Sides. And last year we organized CTF with Meta CTF, another partner of Bechios Information Security. They hosted the Capture the Flag event for us, and we used it as a stage one for a qualification for the European cybersecurity change, and picked some young talents from this competition and started working with them. And actually, we were able to send the first Bulgarian team in Norway last year, and they performed really well.
Very good, very good. And your B-sides event, Preshin, that's coming up pretty soon, right? When is it? When's it happening?
In 2 weeks, 23rd of March.
23rd of
2
March.
weeks. Yeah.
Very good. And it's located in Sofia, right?
Yeah, it's in Sofia, in the University of National Economics and Wealth. They offered the venue for free for us for a third year in a row, because for them cybersecurity is a really hot topic, and they would like to be the hub for such students. Ironically or not, because over the street we have a technical university, which is not so open-minded for this.
Yeah. And for anybody watching that's considering going to B-side Sofia, what's Sofia like? Tell us about Sofia.
Actually, currently I'm not living in Sofia because we are changing homes because of the little kid we have. But yeah, Sofia is a developing city which is very noisy and dirty at times, but it's it's have a very nice historical heritage, and you may no matter what's your interests are, you may find your spot there. It's really nice town if you know where to look at and connect with the right people.
Very good. And where are you located if not in Sofia?
I'm located in a village 100 kilometers from Sofia, and at my father-in-law house currently. So
yeah,
but I'm traveling very often to Sofia for work and many things like that.
That's great. Yeah, I visited Bulgaria before. It's a very beautiful country. Plovdiv was my favorite of the cities. It's an amazing place. So very cool.
Yeah. Most of our guys are from Plovdiv, so we are having office there too.
Great. Okay. All right. Caitlin, you're up. Tell us about yourself and where you're coming from and what you're working on these days.
You're on mute.
You're mute.
How's that better?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Well, I was making a joke, and it was apparently so bad that my microphone decided that y'all didn't need to hear it. So I am Caitlin, and I work at Black Hills Information Security, which is not based out of Europe. I am in the United States. And I work on a team that we have that does continuous pen testing. So we test our customers year-round instead of the normal time box, like 1 week to 4 week sort of engagement type thing. Plus, anything else that people let me do. And additionally, on the side, me and Steve, who was here earlier, but he had to hop off, we are putting together a course on offensive operations against foreign adversaries. We like to call it WAFA. And we're going to be doing the first couple iterations of that at some conferences coming up soon, talking about operations against Russian adversaries. And my microphone is terrible, and I'm sorry. That's it. That's me.
Thanks for joining us. Thank everybody for joining us. And my internet is apparently terrible right now. So Klaus said if I freeze or start getting glitchy, just let me know and please take over. So So thanks everybody else that's joined us to tune in today. This is our show talking about the cybers with Europe. So let's go through some current topics and talk about them for a little bit, and then we'll go from there. So we had a question that came in on the chat a little bit earlier. Let's see if I can find it. How effective is Europe handling cyber espionage and national state attacks? And that might be different depending upon which country in Europe, right? So I would be curious to your folks' opinions on that question, maybe even in general for all of Europe, but maybe also focused on the country that you are working in or living in. Cyber espionage, state attacks. Are we prepared? Are we good at handling this? Or are we vulnerable? What are your thoughts?
Well, aren't we all vulnerable? I think one of the problems that we have here in Denmark is that we are not so close to the Russians, so that we are really scared. Obviously, everybody east of us are shit scared, so they have a high. They have a long tradition of doing things to prepare themselves not only for cyber war but also for more traditional warfare. Where in Denmark we sort of thinks it's not so bad and we don't need to do so much. And but I think that is slowly changing. For instance, like being a prepper, not an American prepper, but prepping so that you can get around for a couple of days or half a week or something like that. That's becoming something that you start to talk about that is accepted without people thinking you're a freak. So in that sense, things are changing, of course, but no, we are not where we should be, and I don't think many countries are.
Well, I can say what about the Lithuanian stage a little bit. Well, it's I think after well, I think maybe let's say recently Lithuania started to invest more and more and take the governmental security seriously, just because I think it also kind of falls into the economics and financials of a country. So the richer countries, of course, can invest way more into their assets and infrastructure, but it was a little bit, I think, before NATO, we did a lot of restructuring because we had the NATO summit. I don't remember, was it like a year or 2 years ago? Kind of, do you remember? It was a year ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was, because actually during the NATO summit, there was also a big DDoS attack on Lithuania governmental structures, and I think Vilnius was affected. Like the NATO the Vilnius website was affected, and some other endpoints and servers, and I think we got a lot of financial influx in to develop our systems, but what I heard, we're not in very good state, and as we are so close to Russia, we are definitely targeted. And I think take an example of the snake, if I remember, that was the big malware that was uncovered. It was active for 20 years, or was it? And we definitely were warned, and Trojaned and exfiltrated in many ways that we didn't want to. And I think it's just we're not as good as we want to be in this field, because politicians just don't take it that seriously until recently we started to actually pay attention more. But I mean, I think we just as we are I think other countries who has more money, like Denmark, they are able to kind of rebuild themselves faster than, for example, we do. I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, being that close
So
is definitely gonna. Sorry, go ahead.
I would like to share
Internet
for Bulgaria.
copy.
What?
Please.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Just for I will speak briefly for Bulgaria. I'm not going into the details, not to break any NDAs and so on. But my particular opinion, we are not focused by any APTs or any advanced hacking groups because they're using some of our hosting providers and such on for staging environment and command control servers. This came up in the news several times for the past few years. Also, I have discovered some shady, let's say, web services and so on. Also, one of our most promising cybersecurity firms hacked our national revenue agency for no reason. So we do not need external actors to do that, if you know what I mean. But jokes aside, for the European Union and exercises like rocket shields, which are very interesting, and also having such OSINT and investigation companies like Bellingcat, if you know them. Hristo Grozev is Bulgarian and one of the most wanted persons by the Russians. So, in my opinion, Europe and as a European state is very prepared for, let's say, cyber invasion or very disruptive attacks. So this is pretty much what I know and wanted to share.
Preshin,
Awesome.
you had mentioned I think I had heard about this. This was quite a while ago. There was like an internal attack on the Bulgarian, was it like the tax services or something like
Yes.
that? That was I had heard about this when I was in Sofia a year ago. Can you tell us a little bit about that? That was a while ago, right?
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago, and it was nothing special. It was just some high severe vulnerability on publicly exposed service. And as I said, one cybersecurity company just decided to hack them and dump all the data they extracted to the public. So yeah, it was big news, but nothing fancy, nothing sophisticated. So just pure dump and stupid thing they did.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so other questions that we had here, so or topics, I should say. We had talked about the European agencies that are involved. Earlier in our pre-show segment, we were talking about information sharing between countries. There's many people know of the Five Eyes, which is the U.S., Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and UK. Is there something like that in Europe, or because I think Interpol would be separate, or is it Interpol? How does information sharing work between countries over here? You know, we have a lot of viewers that are in the U.S. that would probably be interested in some of the differences over here. How does that work? Anybody know? Or does it not work? Is the communication not
the
happening between the
information
countries
sharing between
for NATO?
yeah, I think the information sharing between law enforcement in Europe is increasing, but still is not at the right level. We should have more collaboration between law enforcement and more information sharing. But still, in the last, let's say, 5-10 years, it's increasing a lot.
Also, European Union.
Is it being driven by any particular agencies or countries?
I think it's a general between all the countries in Europe, probably because also the rise of ransomware, so law enforcement is understanding that there is a need for information sharing, you know.
Mm-hmm. My internet cut out for a second. Did somebody else have a comment on this question? Couldn't.
Yeah, also European Union has agency ENISA, which acts more like or less like CISA in US. And for the recent years, they are putting a lot of effort and resources for improving the communication between the states and enforcing common security frameworks across the governments. Yeah, and this is something which improve the overall security in the region. And as I said, this is just from the past 3-4 years. And before that, it was very sporadic, at least in Bulgaria.
Wow. And in terms of that framework, I mean, is it just happened recently in the past 4 years? Are we there yet in Europe? Or have we gotten all of our groups and agents, governments, you know, abiding to these certain, you know, level of protocols and the, you know, following the framework, or are we still far out? Like, how prepared are we? Going back to that, you know, that question, how prepared is Europe based off of that? So, in your opinions. Yeah. Okay. Fair. Okay, so let's go to another topic. So cloud security. That seems to be a big focus on a lot of the talks that I'm seeing around. You know, does anybody here specialize in cloud or have any opinions on that?
We need more concrete questions on this.
Yeah, we usually do it pretty informal, but concrete. Let's see, cloud security. What are we? You know, we've got Azure. Any opinions on? You know, are we seeing any? Have there been any recent European cloud security incidents? I should say. Maybe that's a good place to start. Actually, talking about a recent incident. And then we can go from there. Does anybody know any big cloud hacks that have happened recently? Data loss or anything like that? Nope. Okay. Well, Klaus, you had an incident in Denmark that just recently happened that was pretty interesting that we wanted to talk about, and we did a little bit in pre-show. Can you tell us a little bit about that? That was I think
sure.
It was insider threat maybe related, right?
Yeah, well, it turned out to be, but I think it was like last weekend where it was publicized that that the Danish company Net company had been hacked, and it looked like, well, somebody posted something on a leak site and posted a lot of data and posted some passwords to decrypt the data, and some of the cybersecurity experts in the community started commenting on that in the media, and that company didn't want to say anything while they were investigating. And then after the weekend, we found out that it wasn't somebody externally. It was somebody who, not somebody that was hired in the company, but was hired by a supplier, and yeah, he got arrested and accused of that, and then but apart from that, we don't really know anything, because the police have sort of made everybody not talk about it, but so they can't name the person by name, and we don't know where they hired or who they are and what they're doing or anything. Not at least not yet. So, but the interesting thing is that it turned from being perceived as being perceived as an so quote unquote normal hack, or what one call, and then all of a sudden it was something else, which was quite interesting, because obviously the media description changed during that period, of course. So yeah, but unfortunately we don't know that much yet. We know that some data has been leaked, but net company claims that most of it is test data and it doesn't really mean anything, and so it's very much, there are words against people knowing their stuff, so far at least.
Okay. We've got a question here. What's more concerning, elite nation state attackers or misconfigurations and user errors not being caught?
What is more likely? I don't know. Well, it depends. Like a lot of things, it depends.
What's keeping you up at night?
Well, maybe someone more paranoid than me should ask, should answer, because I've never managed to become really paranoid, so I'm definitely the wrong person to answer that.
I think that yeah, that's a good question. I think I would be more concerned about elite nation state attackers, right? Just because they would have the resources to find 0 days, right? That are not out there. While misconfigurations, yeah, we in a company, right? We have layers of security. We have our security program, so things can still slip through. Users cannot be caught, but when there's a 0 day and you're not even aware that this issue exists, well, then how do you defend against it? Sure, you can use a specialized software which tries and detects that there is actually an active 0 day exploit being exploited, but that to me sounds more concerning. If a nation state has the money, the resources to develop those exploits, that sounds more concerning to me.
I actually think that I mean, yeah, there is a saying that or is there a saying that you can't really defend from nation state attackers, just because usually they have, well, infinite money and time, and what we see, like North Korea is responsible for the biggest hacks in history, multiple ones. So and they just have resources to go through the source code, if they have one, and just develop their own 0 days. And I in what I think is basically there is no really defense. Well, there's no defense from 0 days, but you can have defense in different layers, as Kai said. So you can't really defend from 0 days from nation state attackers, but if you build your security in layers, I think that's where you can shine and protect yourself.
if I might share my point of view, it's totally opposite, and what keeps me awake, if I may say so, is that at least my surrounding is the companies I work with and government entities and so on. They are not excellent in the foundation. So there is a lot of end of life systems not secured. They like to put anything on internet, unmonitor it, and so on, not to apply the best practices, let's say, and so on. And in my opinion, when you're in such environment as me, the 0 days and nation-sponsored attacks are are nice to have, but usually there is a lot of many different problems on the foundational level. So here in Bulgaria, in terms of cybersecurity, we are maybe like 10 years behind the world. We are rapidly catching up, but yes, we have another issues from the rest of the world. But when I heard the news, there is such things so all over the globe. So
Yeah, end users are training, getting folks to get their systems patched and updated. I think is like always the a huge vector in most parts. It's interesting though, hearing Caius, talking, and Dominicus, being that close, having that nation state is keeping you up at night. But I mean, Prescian, you're right there on the Black Sea. I mean, there's a war going on the other side of the sea, right? So, yeah, that's interesting. Okay. We also had a topic of that cyber espionage and things like that. I think Belgium today just announced that they expelled a handful of Russian folks out of the country. Cyber espionage. What does that mean? How has espionage changed in respect from just in the past 10 years? Does anybody know? My questions aren't as good on this show, I think, from the last ones.
Well, we are all cyber spies, so I don't know why we don't all have tons of answers to this.
We're all holding our own secrets.
I have another story related to spies in Bulgaria. Actually, you all know NSO Group and Pegasus, and one of their subsidiaries companies is based here in Bulgaria, Circus, Bulgaria. So yeah, we are pretty much in the business too with spyware. But yeah, I think our law enforcement and internal investigation units captured and suspected some Russian and foreign agents, and they expelled them. But in the media, it's all blurry, without names, without details. Just yeah, it's not very public information.
Yeah. Caitlin, how does you had commented on the espionage question? How does this course that you're developing tie into some of that? Do you think?
I would say that it ties in pretty well to that topic. I am in our class. We're kind of trying to, but put students in that mindset of people coming from different directions than just I'm a penetration tester or you know, I'm a network defender. So we're going to be talking about things from the perspective of like a hacktivist or from like what would a nation state actor be doing, um, and yeah, I honestly I think from a, like a cyber espionage standpoint, one, I don't think there's really a huge difference when it comes to um, you know, the European side of things or the, you know, US side of things or other parts of the world, because we're all just so interconnected at this point. We're using a lot of the same resources, like the as if you have access to the internet and you have the means to get through blocks uh, for certain information, you know, we're kind of all on the same page there. So it's really, it really just comes down to, I think, how do you protect your information? Because people are always going to be digging for it, right? So finding out where your information could possibly be, um, and how to keep it from ending up there. I think I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but um, yeah. So I mean, a lot of what we've been doing has been digging into like, well, what information can we find in different places? You know, because it's not, you know, you can't just go to your, you know, search engine of choice and, you know, say, well, how do I hack Russia? Um, but you can definitely do digging around and find resources in places. Um, and I think that that's true regardless of where you're at.
Is a lot of that just scanning and scanning and scanning and scanning?
A lot of scanning, yeah, scanning plays a big part in it, but also like just um doing things manually as well. You know, I think there's a big human aspect to things. Um, you know, you can, if you can make connections with people, that's a big way of getting, you know, kind of like how we're talking about like the insider threat thing uh, earlier. You know, it's similar. If I can connect with somebody and I can convince them to give me the information that I want, then I don't need to scan. Um, and I can sometimes get a lot more information out of just like that one human connection versus, you know, sitting and having my computer running in the background all day and night.
Yeah. No, that's fascinating that you and Steve have essentially, it sounds like you've rebuilt, you know, a foreign network for your
Yeah,
course.
we're trying to make it as realistic as we can. We really want it to be a valuable class for people. Not just, you know, like, oh, this is like every other hacking class, but you know, things are just in Russian. Uh, so yeah, I really hope that it will be fun and useful for people for sure.
Besides the language and translation differences, what has been the biggest challenge on building a course like that?
Besides, okay, what's the biggest challenge besides the biggest challenge? Um, honestly, I don't know if I would say challenge, but it's the most interesting thing to me has been just really the digging around, like the trying to find the information, like what is done differently, um, and how, you know, is that a weakness or is that a strength, you know, for them, and and so I guess really that's the main thing for me is like how do we make this as realistic and like true to life as possible without, you know, actually telling our students like, hey, let's go break some laws, which we're not doing, by the way. um, so yeah, that's I guess that I can't speak for Steve, but for me personally, that's been my biggest thing is how do we, one, make this impactful, make it useful for people, and entertaining, right? Because it's fun. Like that was a big part of why I wanted to do this course, is because I think it'll be fun for people to do, but also making it realistic and as keeping it not trying to not be super contrived with it, even though it is going to be like a lab environment.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. That sounds really exciting course. I can't wait to hear how it goes in Miami. I think is where you're teaching it. Yeah.
Yeah, so our first kind of like dipping our toes in the water is going to be at Hack SpaceCon, and that's just it's like a free 3-hour workshop, and then the first full iteration of the class is going to be at Hack Miami.
That's great. That's great. So, thinking about just changing topics really quick. So, we've got a handful of folks on here that organize community security events, right? Let's go back to these events that everybody's working on. I mean, everybody here, with the exception of Caitlin and myself, are B-Sides organizers. What makes B-Sides events unique compared to normal conferences, security conferences? What makes them special?
The community, of course, right? And at least here in Denmark, here in Copenhagen, it's the only, our B-side is the only community-driven thing. The only other thing is an expo everybody goes to, but not because of the expo, but because everyone else is there, right? So
OWASP.
Pardon?
There's OWASP as well.
Yeah, OWASP as well. OWASP meetups, but that's not a conference. That's just a meetup. But yeah, we have those as well. So I guess, so I say, at least for me, it's all the community and the community vibe. And I think one of the beautiful things about the community is that no matter where you join a B-side, it's going to be the same kind of people, and that's just nice. It's nice being at home in that sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I can bring my experience. First time I attended the B-Sides and then decided to organize a B-Sides. Probably is the friendly environment where you feel I belong here. I'm part of the community. I can share what I have to say with the community, without any elitarism, or is also probably the low cost that helps a lot of people that want to enter in the industry. They will approach besides as a low cost conference with good talks, and they will understand also if they want to enter in the industry.
Yeah, and also that is so, not not vendor driven, right? Because the talks that are there, those are the talks that the community actually thinks are the best ones. They're not necessarily what some vendor wants.
What kind of topics and talks are people bringing to B-Sides that we see that might not be at a normal conference where vendors are driving the talks, like you're saying, Klaus?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't really think there is a sort of common denominator or whatever in the talks that we have at B-Sides Copenhagen. And that's also one of the beautiful things, that it's very different what each organizes or whoever selects to talk, if things are different, things are important. For instance, we've always wanted to have a lot of different topics, broad topics, rather than something very deep technical. We have that as well, but we focus on having a lot of different talks. Last year we both had technical talks and somebody talking about imposter syndrome and that as well. We have it all. And again, that's one of the beauties of the community.
Yeah, I think there is also the opportunity to talk about things like burnout in the industry, for example. We never talk about burnout in the industry, but we all know that happens a lot. So it's very important to share these topics with the community. And also, I don't know, Klaus, for example, is bringing his personal experience on living with the ADHD into infosecurity as well, which are different topics but still very interesting for the community.
Yeah, I can just agree with what Klaus said. Yeah, it's just so we're running the CFP actually just right now at this moment, and the variety of proposals is just really interesting. You know, the topics range so much from social engineering to stuff like eBPF, right? How do you secure stuff in this age of containers and Kubernetes in the cloud? So at least from my experience, yeah, the topics are really all over the place, which is fantastic. I think that's great.
And Prussian, the B-side Sophia is coming up very soon. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the topics and talks that
Yeah, the schedule is already publicly available on the website, and this year for a change, we decided to give not to give any preference over our, let's say, Bulgarian speakers, because in the previous 2 years, this was maybe a mistake, maybe or not, but we were ignoring some of the foreigner talkers and giving stage to Bulgarian ones. We had excellent talks, but our choice was very limited, and also we tried to have a very rich program with 2 tracks, parallel workshops, CTF running, and so on. But when we gathered the feedback after last year event, it showed us that the guys attending the conference are wanting more casual program with bigger breaks, just 1 track. So this year we have only talks on Saturday and workshops on Sunday. We accepted some great talks. One of them is regarding malware development from Cocomelon. You may come by him on Twitter. He's very talented. Also, another focus, which is not related to the topics we choose and talks, but more focused on attracting students and young people, because currently, as I said, in the universities and in academia, the cybersecurity is now very well placed. They just started like 1 year ago, 2 years ago in the technical university to have cybersecurity courses there. So we are sharing a lot of, let's say, historical facts, and try to to bring some nostalgia, because you may know that Bulgaria in late 80s and early 90s, it was very active in terms of copying and reverse engineering of kinds of Western technologies like Apple II and so on. Actually, there is a podcast from Malicious Wife named Dark Avenger. So we are telling those stories to all young people and trying them to spark the interest in cybersecurity in during the conference and talk them and try to attract them to the cybersecurity team for the European cybersecurity change. So this is another focus we have during the conference. Of course, we are well connected, let's say, the ODocs and the guys working in the field for several years, but we lack a fresh blood and meat.
Thank you. So what can somebody expect? It's interesting. You had said the person the first few years, most of the speakers were Bulgarian. For some of the other folks with your events, is it a mix of languages for the talks? Is it what can somebody coming from a different country or a different continent, coming to a conference over here like that?
Actually, it was a miss from our side, from the organization part, that we didn't mention it in advance what the talk language will be. This year we have this on the agenda, but we let the speakers choose their language, of course, Bulgarian or English.
Yes, for Vilnius, we decided to go with all English approach, right? Because just to make it clear up front that everything's going to be in English. Yeah, generally, I think that's not a problem. The language barrier is not that bad here, so hopefully everyone will understand the talks in English. Yeah.
Well, same thing here in Copenhagen. So we've always gone with, I would say for the first couple of years we made it open what people wanted to do, but only 1 in 3 years chose to do it in Danish, and then after that we just said, well, do it in English, please. But what it's interesting what the president talked about before about favorizing local speakers. We haven't done that per se, other than obviously when we don't have much money since we're B-sides, and obviously if they're not local speakers or Danish speakers or from Sweden or nearby, then it takes a lot of money to get them to our conference, and if they need any cash from us, we don't we sort of prioritize them down, because obviously we don't want to pay unless we have to, and obviously, and luckily we don't need to, because last time we had like 76 talk submissions that were good, and we had only 3 tracks, so that we had like 50 talks we couldn't use, or 50 submissions we couldn't use, something like that. So in that sense, we've always been lucky.
But by saying that you had 3 tracks, it sounds so little. In the comparison, we only have 1 track.
Yeah, well, at our first B-side, we also only had 1 track, right? Organic growth, my friend.
Exactly.
So, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that we actually encourage some foreign speakers come to Lithuania, and we actually have a budget of sponsoring their trip and accommodation, covering the costs, and we hope those funds will be enough. And of course, we're not offering any payment for their presentation, but we do want some foreign presenters talk in Lithuania, and especially that's why we also did just everything in English, just to make clear that just everything is going to be in English. Is it foreign or local presentation?
Great. So as all of you are community security leaders in your countries, in towns that you live in, for the folks that are watching and tuned in, how do people get involved in, if they are in, in these areas, or maybe something overlaps even in their own community, right? Like, how does somebody get involved if they're new to cyber and they want to learn, they want to, meet people that are in the industry? What do they do?
Find
What
a meetup.
resources do you have locally, right? Besides your B-Sides events, is there anything else going on that they could do?
Well,
OWASP
in Copenhagen,
chapters?
in Copenhagen we both have CITISEC and OWASP Copenhagen. We've had OWASP Copenhagen for, I don't know, 20 years on and off, and a friend and me just started CITISEC a couple of months ago, which is more popular than I had dared hope for, which is good. So at least in Copenhagen there's those two opportunities. So I don't know about the others, obviously. Well, I know that OWASP is quite active in Dublin as well, but I'm pretty sure that Antonio can talk about that since he's also involved in that. Apparently, it seems like if you're a B-side organizer, you're also involved in other community stuff. Apparently.
Yeah, that's true. We try to organize monthly meetings with OWASP as well. There are a lot of meetups also organized by cybersecurity companies here. So there is a big movement, big scene here for cybersecurity. If you are new or you want to approach the industry, just the advice here is just to go to a meetup, to an event that is organized by the community, by make networking with people, of course.
We recently did in Vilnius. Recently did something that's called a city sec. So it's a concept that I think Finnish guys came up with. I'm not sure.
Actually, it's from NetSec on Reddit, and it's in the US as
Oh,
well.
all right,
But
all right.
yeah, we have a CITISEC in Copenhagen as well that we started last month. So
Yeah,
it's a good concept.
it's a good concept, and we did the first one, the trial run, just a couple of weeks ago here. That went great. A lot of people turned up, and I think it's a good thing that people meet in a bar, have a couple of drinks, and
Mm.
it's a totally different atmosphere and different vibe. So it's much easier to meet new people. So that went really great, and I think we need a part 2 of that. So yeah.
Yeah, and also CITISEC is really nice, really easy to organize. You only need a bar and a date, and send an invite, and that's it. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's another good thing about the concept. And as you say, it's much different when you meet up in the bar and you're having a few beers and chat. That's cool. It's a good vibe.
Nice. That sounds great. What about in Bulgaria, Prescian? What can people do to become part of the community there? Besides going to B-Side Sofia, of course.
Actually, we have semi-closed group of Hack the Box players, and it's becoming very large because it's like for invitation only, let's say. But we are organizing Hack the Box meetings. We will play the Cyber Apocalypse CTF in the next week. Also, I think there is guys, but I never attended because it wasn't on the right time every time for me. So OWASP chapters here in Sofia. What else? I'm not sure beside that. What else? I think in the past there were more, let's say, sysadmin and IT administrator meetups in bars and like that. But now I think the scene is not that active as used to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, great. This has been great, guys. I appreciate you jumping on and sharing about your events, your experience, and the communities that you're a part of. I think we at the top of the hour, so we can wrap up. If there's any questions from the audience, feel free to put them in now. We've got links to all these events that these folks are involved with and organizing, and we'll have those up on the YouTube as well. But yeah, any closing comments from anyone before we end?
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was an interesting talk. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for joining.
Definitely.
Yeah, thanks for having me too, and good luck to all of you with your events. And
Yeah. You too, Christian.
all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you, everybody. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in and joining us today or this evening, depending upon where you are. And maybe we'll see you sometime at a B-Sides event or Wild West Hackin' Fest. Or we also have a conference Anti-Siphon's putting on, the most offensive con that has ever offensed. That's a virtual conference. So definitely accessible for the folks watching in Europe. So check that out as well. But yeah, with that, we'll call it a night or a day. And thank you, everybody. See you on the next one.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.